Oh, I'm live. What's up, everybody? My name is Koku, aka Koku Puff, and I decided to go live really quick. I just actually covered the Emmys, which was really, really cool. And so, as I'm covering the Emmys, I'm in a virtual room. So sometimes when you do press, you don't physically have to be a place, but you might still, you'll be able to ask questions in the Q&A. So when I did cover the Emmys, I was able to actually ask Shirley Ralph a question. So that was really, really nice to be able to get involved in that. And I was really, really proud and excited about all of the accomplishments of everyone that, that won. And especially to see that Ralph won her first Emmy now. And in addition to that, Lizzo won an Emmy for Watch Out for the Big Girls. I said this so many times, so many times. I love Watch Out for the Big Girls. It's such a good show because it's so positive, especially in today's media cycle. It's just so easy to be negative about things. We're so used to watching those kind of reality shows that people are like yelling and fighting and things like that. But Lizzo's reality show, if you have not watched it yet, you will really, really, really enjoy it. And I've actually interviewed her choreographer. So just make sure that you check that out. Her choreographer, her name is Tanisha Scott. You could probably look it up on YouTube, Tanisha Scott Koku, and you'll find that particular interview. But what I really wanted to talk about now, before I get into the main topic, is first of all, rest in peace to PnB Rock. That's just so crazy. That he lost his life tragically at a Roscoe's getting something to eat with his girlfriend and the mother of one of his children. Um, what's particularly disturbing about this particular crisis is that people are blaming his girlfriend totally for this because she posted their location. And the problem with that is we live in a world right now where people are very comfortable with saying, like, hey, I'm outside, I'm here, I'm there, oh, we eat in Roscoe's, that kind of thing. So it's not unusual to say, we're at Roscoe's, we're eating something right now. Look at the, Roscoe's chicken and waffles or something like that. I mean, there is a layer of a situational awareness, especially that one should have at all times. I'm not the kind of person that drops my location. Not that there's anything that there's to take from me, and I'm not even somebody that is interested in expensive things. But to solely blame this woman as if she was behind it or as if there's some kind of conspiracy is not fair because she was doing the same thing that everybody else does. You don't like if you've ever spent time in LA, there are so many celebrities. Just depending on the world that you live in, you may not even understand. Like there's always going to be a bigger celebrity than the other person. So LA is just that kind of place. So sometimes you may lack the understanding like where you are and what that means because. And I'll say this too. I understand LA's landscape, but LA is very deceptive too. Like if you're not from there, and you're driving around and you're seeing these manicured lawns and palm trees, that's a very, very different landscape than what you see when you're on the East Coast. So that's why a lot of people are constantly deceived about what the dangers are present in LA. If you're not with somebody. But with PnB Rock and his girl, he kind of ominously kind of almost predicted that something would happen to himself as he did an interview, which I actually thought, academics, that was just really in poor taste to re-upload that in this moment. But this is what these people do. So I thought that was unfortunate that you would do that. Um, but the main thing too is we got to stop this news cycle where we're posting all of these really, really brutal videos on Twitter, and even news media is starting to cover this stuff. Like, remember when the lady in LA ran through traffic and killed 7 people? That was being posted on blogs and on news sites. With PnB Rock, I wasn't looking for it. And I get on Twitter, and there you go scrolling, and you literally watch this man in the last minutes of his life as life is leaving him. That's trauma. And for the person that took the video and it is like, oh shoot, they shot him out here or whatever. What like, and it's like posting it like it's like cool or interesting. That's absolutely crazy. I mean, why are we so desensitized to trauma and death where you can post somebody's passing in that sense, where you feel like it's just, you don't want to even respect not only the person that has passed or that is in the throes of perhaps taking their last breaths, but what about his children? you know what are you gaining from this? Then when I looked at the actual like engagement of the tweet, it was like tens of thousands of people that liked it and that were retweeting it. What's going on with people? Like, come on now. But I want to also just kind of get into this whole Barb's thing because it's kind of hard to follow like what's happening. Because Nicki Minaj seems upset with some people, and it's like, well, what's she upset about? Because she just dropped her single, and it went to number one. So people were just trying to figure out why she was upset. But just I'm gonna continue. I'm just gonna repeat what I see here, and that's in terms of the reactions that are from Nicki Minaj and Cardi B because they're being talked about a lot here. So the reactions here are in regards to PnB Rock's passing. Cardi B says, I highly doubt Nickus was looking at PnB's baby mom's IG. He was in a bad location and people stay outside plotting. It's very irresponsible and inconsiderate to blame her for something so tragic. We should be sending nothing but love to her and his family at this time. Nicki Minaj's response was, after Pop Smoke, there's no way we as rappers or our loved ones are still posting locations to our whereabouts. To show waffles and some fried chicken, he was such a pleasure to work with. Condolences to his mom and family. This makes me feel so sick. Jesus. And then she hashtag sip and hashtag PnB Rock. You know, again, I don't like to play the blame game because you don't really know the variables. And this woman witnessed the father of her child and her man lose his life right in front of her. That's a trauma that is just unspeakable. If you've ever seen somebody lose their life in front of you, it's something that you just can't come back from. It's very, very, very traumatizing. And especially with that kind of a fan base, making it sort of reducing it to waffles and some fried chicken as if that's all that the motivation that was there. It's so sad to say it in that way, and it's just not fair. And I actually encourage you all to go to PnB Rock's to his stories on his Instagram. This man, in the final hours of his life, he was so happy to be with his girlfriend. He was so happy to be with her, and they were having so much fun. So nothing about him was even anticipating harm. So think about that, and try to be more kind with delivery, I would say, before we just start making judgments and making statements, not really understanding exactly what could be going on in a situation. And I mean, come on now, guys. Like, she lost the father of her child. So this, speaking to this as if it's like, oh yeah, she must have been setting him up. Those things happen. Let's not pretend like those things don't happen. Going back to what Nicki said, in fairness, when she was talking about Pop Smoke, when Pop Smoke dropped his location, he showed his address on one of those Instagram lives and showed it. And so somebody came and followed and just, came to rob him. In this particular case, as it's being described by people that live in LA, this wasn't necessarily, it didn't have to be plotted. In this case, the people that are, I should say, from LA, that Roscoe's on Manchester and Maine is a Roscoe's that even people that live in LA and are from LA and are comfortable with LA, it's not a location that a lot of people would go to. Now, maybe if you're of that neighborhood, then that's something different. But a lot of people feel like they're out of their element. And I'm not talking about like gang members or people with like enemies and ops and things like that. So that's one thing. But again, just trying to figure out what's going on with Nicki and why she was like blasting people on social media, what's happening. There's a really interesting article here that I came across because one question that I had was like, why is Nicki Minaj mad at Garcelle Beauvais? And I came across a blog that seemed to cover, and it's called allaboutthetea.com. And I just want to shout them out because I'm reading it from their blog. These are their words. Nicki Minaj is pissed with Garcelle Beauvais and dragged the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills star in a cuss-filled tirade. They continued, the rapper took to her Queen radio show on Apple Sunday night to drag a few people, including Garcelle Beauvais, who recently spoke out after her 14-year-old son was attacked online by racist trolls. So now the question is, which they covered, why is Nicki Minaj mad about that? The beef stems from an interview that was conducted on The Real with Jennifer, I don't know how to say this last name. I get really bad with certain names. Jennifer Huff, the woman who accused Minaj's husband, Kenneth Petty, of sexual assault, a crime that Kenneth Petty was arrested and convicted of. Garcelle joined the cast of The Real during its final 2 seasons in 2020 and 2022. Jennifer Huff's interview happened almost a year ago. So now Nicki Minaj is slamming Garcelle for providing a platform to the victim. So that's what Nicki Minaj, that's her gripe with Garcelle specifically. So in her rant, because again, this is on Queen Radio. So when, Nicki Minaj will hop on Queen Radio and just whatever she's feeling in the moment, she'll just say it. So she'll maybe be debuting a song or she just wants to talk about something, but it's her platform to do her the way she chooses to do her. So what she said, it's because they wanted ratings. Nicki starts her rant, and this is again from All About the Tea. And the next thing that happens to them, they are canceled. And now this lady is on one of the Real Housewives talking about leave my son alone. Don't leave comments under my son's page. Nicki said, if you can't stand to feel the MF in heat, then get the F out the kitchen, B. Minaj said, adding her infamous bomb drop. Did you care about my MFing son, B? Did you care about my motherfucking son? H-E, ho? Oh, yeah, because that's a garden tool. She screamed, I see why that white man left you, B. Disgusting. That's a lot. I don't think that I understand Nicki's energy here. I'm just gonna say this. This is why, is that, if you're on a show like that, and especially like a magazine topical show like that, your responsibility is just to, hey, A Black, I see you in the chat. It's just to report the news. It may not even be, we don't even know what Garcelle's stance may be. But if you have to interview a character, controversial or otherwise, you just have to do it, And so I don't know if that's the energy that Garcelle has for Nicki, or I don't know if Garcelle was just taking on the guest because that's what she was doing. Is like, this is my job. My job is to, when you work in a journalist capacity, you may have to cover things that make you even uncomfortable, but that's your job and that's your role. And the best journalists try to be impartial and not pick sides. It's unrealistic to expect a true journalist to pick a side or to not try to understand what's happening on both sides. You want to stay informed. So it's really, really, it's not reasonable in that sense for Nicki to think that Garcelle just wouldn't be a part of this panel, wouldn't speak on it. So I just don't know. Like, I don't do like tit for tat stuff. I wouldn't be like, well, let me talk about your son and all that. I mean, that's wild. But to add to that, there's just a lot of back and forth going on too, like in regards to someone had added Meg Thee Stallion, and they were saying like, why is Meg Thee Stallion responding to stuff if she wasn't added? But the way Twitter works is if you mention someone, they will be able to see that mention. There's of course somebody like Meg Thee Stallion, Nicki, these people, Cardi of this influence, they probably can't even see a quarter of their tweets, let alone every single one. So, but the ones that cross their desk that do come in front of them, depending on the engagement, I mean, if they decide to respond, they decide to respond. But someone was saying that they were accusing Meg Thee Stallion of telling Nicki that she needs to go drink some alcohol so she can get a miscarriage. I mean, that's awful. That's even awful to even suggest. But even in doing that, Meg and Nicki don't seem to even have a relationship at this point. They're not friends. We know that. But Meg even responded like that's a lie. Like, I would never say something like that. So that was just something, I think a lot of times too with these fans, when you're trying to protect this person that you love and you want to protect them as a fan, sometimes, yeah, I know exactly. Drew said, why do these outsiders make up the rumors? They just make stuff up, Yeah, Eric, PnB did die. It's very sad. So sometimes people just make things up. And they think that like by, a lot of times people will think that they're helping by hurting. You can say this is wrong or I support this person without having to bully people, dox people. And the fans sometimes get so involved because that's their fave. You're doing things that people would do in middle school, And I'm almost kind of wondering at this point, are these people in middle school? Because adults should not be behaving like this. It's way too. It's just way too low down. Adults should not be behaving like this. So I'm very, very disgusted and bothered by that. And when you look at how have any of these artists in question spoken out against the doxing? No, they haven't. In fact, I saw a tweet from Nicki, which she seems to be fine with, where she was asking her fans to provide her with intel and information about people that are spoken about her, so that those individuals can be sued or called out. So she's getting her lawyers involved. So there's a lot of that too, where she's basically using her fans as like a personal, like, Reddit sourcing for information that she's looking for, which is kind of, honestly, it's kind of unusual for a celebrity, particularly of that caliber, to even, use their fans in that way. Like, it's cool when those kinds of celebrities engage and interact with their fans, but to say like, find out who's talking about me, let me get my lawyers on this, we're gonna sue everybody. I mean, that's a little bit, that's a little odd, So and you wonder, like, there's celebrities like, let's say like a Beyonce. Beyonce has a huge hive, but you would never expect Beyonce to say, who's talking about me? Find out, I'm suing them all. Beyonce likes to just quietly just, let the things sort of, let everybody do what they're doing. But I don't know. Nicki, I mean, she has her platform with Queen Radio. Of course, she got the #1 single right now. And her fans just feel like the kind of people that they seem dangerous, you know? They seem like actually dangerous. Like, if you said something really, really wild about Nicki that they don't like and Nicki called you out about it, it feels like a person would have to be really concerned about their safety. And I feel like that's unusual when we're talking about a hive. But Eric said, yeah, Eric VR said, yeah, it's LA. So yeah, I mean, again, LA, it's very interesting because when you're not from LA, it can feel like even some of the most dangerous neighborhoods may seem picturesque because of the topography, because of the homes. Not necessarily even we're not talking about the houses in the hills or anything like that, or when I'm not even talking about like Beverly Hills and West Hollywood and things like that. I'm talking about even those homes in the hood. They still have the palm trees, the manicured lawns. People, still care about their environment. It's just that there's layers to what environment can also provide. I would use Brooklyn as an example. People look at all the brownstones in Bed-Stuy and they're like, wow, look at this neighborhood, all these brownstones. Not realizing when you're walking down Ralph, like certain people might walk down Ralph, or they might walk down Howard, they might walk down certain blocks, and it's not going to be good for you, right? Same can be said about Crown Heights. So just understanding it situationally, like certain environments, they feel safe if you're not used to it. What I wanted to sort of add to that too, just really quick, is that this idea that like when we go to certain places, we need to go to the hood. We need to completely also stop doing that. Stop going to people's places and neighborhoods and looking for their hood. We're too grown for that. It's dangerous out there. After this pandemic, people are broke, and if you are somebody that is notable or famous, it's just not a good idea. It's not a good look. I always wonder about people that want to do that with like it's for instance. I'm sorry, Stack. I gotta say this, but when Stack went to O Block, I'm like, why would somebody like Stack come to O Block? Like, we get it, we respect you, but I can't respect this. Like, why would you do that? Especially when you see somebody like Lil Durk don't even want to come back home, not because he's perhaps not scared, wouldn't be the word, but it's more so like, why would I put myself in a position to be in a situation? That's more so the what's going on there. But yeah, Drew said the wolves don't care about your fans. The wolves don't care about anything, you know? And you guys have to consider, just from talking to LA natives, when you talk about where that Roscoe's is situated, they're saying like, listen, first of all, none of y'all, which Cardi was speaking to, none of y'all was actually watching her live. None of these people were. And then the second thing is like, that particular location, you could see he was driving a nice car already, and then you saw the jewelry that he had on already. So somebody just looking outside for like a Vic, they just saw him and that's what they wanted to do. Yeah, Eric said we lost Juice World, Pop Smoke, King Von, XXX Tentacion, Young Dolph. That's crazy, man. A lot of people, and you know what? Juice World, unfortunately, that was like a freak overdose situation. He was scared, you know what I mean? Pop Smoke dropped the location, had the address in it. He was just a victim of circumstance. King Von, yep, King Von was looking for a fair one, and it's like, that's just not what happened, and he wasn't home. And then with Young Dolph died home. He died supporting a Black business. I mean, this is crazy, y'all. Like, what's going on out here? And the other crimes that I'm seeing lately too is like a lot of things you're seeing is like, old ladies getting their purses snatched, old people like even in wheelchairs getting knocked over, getting their wallets took. Like, what's happening out there, y'all? People are hungry in a demonic way. How can you look at like, why should our elders be scared? I'll tell you what, like every neighborhood I've ever lived in, I've lived in some really great neighborhoods. and I've lived in some of the worst neighborhoods. But in every single situation that I've ever been in, people respected the elderly and they respected the kids, and they shielded them from that. No matter what kind of even terrors that their parents were, you just didn't go there. And that's not what's happening right now. Right now, it's like it's people are even scared to go to the grocery store because they don't know what's going to happen. People are getting jacked in the parking lot of Walmart. Like, come on now, that's crazy. And Drew said hip hop has always been unkind to artists who stayed in their hoods, unfortunately. Yeah, that's true. That's true because the thing is, people feel so comfortable. They feel so comfortable at home, but it's like people are always gonna want what you have, or why can't I have what you have, or why can't I come along? They don't realize that sometimes, like, and I've said this before, but like, it don't mean that you don't love your friends, but you know your friends. So I know the friends that I can take to the Emmys, right? I can take them to the Emmys. I can take them to the after parties. I can take them to New York Fashion Week. There's certain friends who can handle certain environments and they'll do okay. Then there's certain friends when you go to those kind of parties and you're going to be interacting and engaging with certain people. If they ended up in those parties, they might be the one that ends up, punching an A-lister or getting an argument with one or trying to like take down security. Again, it doesn't mean you don't love them. It just means you know what's not for them. And that's not an insult. It's just people just have to know that everything is not for everybody. That's just the reality of things. Eric, there's so many people that have passed away, to be honest with you. Like, there's people that I don't even know that passed away. Oh, you could talk about all the people in Chicago that passed away too. Oh, of course, yeah, Nipsey Hussle. And that's very, very sad. It's just sad, man. You know, passed away in his hood. That's to the point, right? Exactly. Like, you pass away at home, thinking that's the one place where you can go and walk around. And it's just not the case, man. I think nowadays, in addition to the whole dropping, like, I get it. Like, I know people feel comfortable and they want to drop their location. Like, y'all, we outside. Here we are, Mr. Childs, things like that. But just do it the next day, or a couple days after, or something like that. Do it the next week. But telling people where you are right now in the moment, I mean, I can tell you guys it's actually happened to me before, and more than once, when I wasn't really realizing what, like, I didn't think about, it wasn't anything in my particular case, it wasn't anything. It was like I was just outside. But then people act like they just happen to be where you are. And it's like, well, what if that person meant harm to me as opposed to just somebody that just knew I was at a spot and around the way. So you got to think about that type of stuff. Yeah, the Juice World one was definitely sad, Eric. I felt really, really sad for him because also Juice World he's from not too far from my original hometown. Like, he went to a high school, actually a pretty prestigious public high school. So he's not a bad kid. He's not a bad kid, and he didn't even purport to be, But he was a good kid. So for him to pass away under those circumstances, too, just so sad. Uh, Yeah, yeah, yeah. Drew said Barty and Nicki Minaj had very different takes on PnB. Which one is real? Outside of what's real and what's fake, in my opinion, in either case, PnB was, again, if you look at his social media prior to his passing, he was happy. He was with his woman. It was a vibe. He felt comfortable enough to pull up to that Roscoe's and go there to have the meal, and they were having a good time prior to, of course, his passing. So I think that you have to think about the comfortability level there. And even when he talked about in the interview with academics, he was just saying like, yo, people have tried me before in LA, you know, and he said he feels safe everywhere that he is. Yeah, exactly, Drew. He was in love. Love is very blind. It'll have people doing things that they shouldn't be doing. Listen, even if you look in PnB's case, even his girlfriend got arrested with him before too, like on some drug charges. Yeah, I mean, in most cases, the girl probably didn't have anything to do with that type of stuff, but love is blind, and to have you taking charges and doing time and all kinds of stuff. You know what, Eric? I'm not going to say I don't feel safe in LA. I will say that when I am traversing and doing things in LA, it's always me with somebody from LA. Like, I'm not, and I spend a lot of time in Hollywood, but like, Hollywood is not safe, first of all. You guys, Hollywood is so junky and dirty and crazy, and it's just wild. Like, and when I say junky, I'm not calling people junkies. I'm literally saying that Hollywood is junky. And of course, you do have so much of the drug use and abuse, and I think a lot of that is because Hollywood throws people away too. Um, when you look at, I will say something that this is kind of an unusual thing to say, but it's something that I've noticed, specifically in LA. When you look at the homeless population, you look at some of these people on their faces, you could tell underneath, some of maybe like with the tattered clothing and things like that, and them having been outside and they're kind of just worn down from the drug use. You look at their faces and it's like you could tell this person at their best was extremely beautiful. And you could almost see the story. You could see the story behind the eyes. And I don't mean that exploitative kind of way that you see where they start interviewing people that just need a few dollars so they can get high, just so they can have something to talk about on YouTube. I'm talking about people where you really look at them and you see their humanity currently, and they still have that in them, but you see how they've been ravaged by drugs, but also who they would have been if drugs had never hit them. You see a lot of that in LA where you can tell, like, man, this person really had a dream, and they may have come from somewhere out east, and came to LA, and it just things kind of fell apart because there's a lot that contributes to why LA is dangerous. And I don't want to put that entirely on the natives too. Because a lot of times people criticize LA and they put everything on everybody from LA. And gang culture is a part of the culture and the environment, but everybody in LA is not in no gang. And I'm talking to these late coming artists that decide to join gangs like in their 20s and 30s because of their being artists. That's the most absurd thing I've heard in my life. And I don't know why that keeps going on, but it does. And it's very strange. And okay. Yeah. Drew said, please stay live. We need the real about this topic. People moving real weird right now. Yeah, I mean, again, this topic is so strange because yeah. What is he dead? Is Tekashi 69 dead? Is that what you're suggesting? I don't know what you're typing to me right now. I had to pause there because I'm not even sure what's happening right now. But Tekashi 69. Oh, okay. Well, now Tekashi 69, he's not gonna be dead because he's a cop. He rolls with those. So anybody gonna even take a okay. I got you. No one's gonna take Tekashi out in any kind of nobody with in their right mind that has some common sense is gonna take Tekashi out because you're gonna do some serious like you'll yeah that's not gonna happen. He's working with them boys. But yeah, Tekashi joined the gang as an adult. Good example. I know somebody that actually mentored Tekashi that was in the community, that when Tekashi was in a community program. Like if you've ever seen those pictures of him that went viral, where he was like a good kid, like a little boy, and he's got on like it looked like a school uniform. And a friend of mine was working with him in like a community center, a program, because he did like his father did pass away, and I believe like his father was killed. But anyway, he described him as like a good kid from Bushwick. Exactly. He wasn't like no gangster, nothing like that. But unfortunately, and this is what I think happens to a lot of these individuals too, is that once they start getting big and popular, and this is not even just musicians, y'all. This is even like NBA players and stuff like that. Now, I'm not going to talk about those ones from like Chicago or LA. I know that those a lot of times those dudes really do be valid, but I'm talking about like you can't just like start a mixtape now, start rapping, and all of a sudden decide now you gang. Doesn't really work like that. Because a lot of times with that, based on you now needing those kinds of protections and involving yourself with that, which is exactly what happened to Tekashi, because that is documented. I don't want to call nobody else out, but you start getting exploited. Now you owe the gang. And that's not what you signed up for. Like, yo, there's nothing wrong with being live from the cul-de-sac. I'll tell y'all all day, I do not care about that type of stuff. I do not have to be gang affiliated. We're not claiming no gangs around here. We can be safe. We can just be squares. Like, I don't understand what's so wrong. I do not think square is an insult. Like, what do you have to prove? If somebody comes from an environment like that, I'm not here to negate whatever their reality is or what they need for their own protections if they come from that environment. But you sound wild, pushing 30, pushing 35 in some of these cases, joining the gang. How you in a gang and you just moved to LA and you live in the Hollywood Hills? Why are you in a gang in Calabasas and you just moved to LA and you got platinum records? DeAndre said, so is PnB Rock's baby mama in trouble for what she did? No. Legally, there's nothing wrong with dropping your location. I mean, listen, guys, just from a technical standpoint, we all have all kinds of trackers in our phones. You know, a lot of times, like if you want to make sure that you get the Nike drop, right? Then they want to, and it might be like a particular like a region that that drop is in. So you have to be in New York to get this particular release. So that means that they got to go ahead and do you get permission so that we can see what you're, so you know, a lot of times without even realizing it, you give up so much of your information anyway. Some of y'all don't private your location on your tweets or on your Facebook statuses. So you might say, you know, hey Facebook, what y'all doing today? And it's like live, you know, in Miami, Florida. That might be okay, but then when you post the picture, you geotag the picture. So if somebody goes and does an image search for location, I can specifically see you are at the Fontainebleau. So you have to think about things like that. And we're living in a time right now, guys, that if you are saying, I'm in Miami, bitch, and you're sitting here, you're at the cabana and you popping bottles, you're in Miami, they see that you're at the Fontainebleau, I'm already know it's going to be a couple things that else that you're going to do. Where you going to go? You're going to go to Wet Willie's? You're going to go to Fat Tuesdays? And you're going to go to Live, right? Am I making this up? So if I'm criminal minded, I already know that's going on. And I know them girls be robbing those dudes. They rob those dudes in Miami. They set you up just like a dude would. The same thing that just happened to PnB Rock, you know, God rest the dead. God bless him as well. Rest in peace. But the same thing that happened, a woman will set you up and then call up the dude, like, you know, come on. So yes. Can you talk about PnB girlfriend? Was it possible she was being extorted to give up this drop? You know, this is why I don't know that I'm really I'm comfortable with that take on the PnB on PnB's girlfriend. The reason why I'm not Platon said this is why ExpressVPN needs to throw you a coupon code. Where's my coupon code, ExpressVPN? I need one. Okay, but so let me go back to that. Can you talk about PnB's girlfriend? Was it possible she was being extorted to give up the drop? That's possible. So I don't necessarily think that because again, she was, you know, once the bag stops, what she's supposed to do. But at the same time, his girlfriend, no problem, DeAndre, I got you. At the time, his girlfriend, I'm sorry, well, his girlfriend is also now rather is also his baby mama. So it's a different story if it's like, yeah, you know, give us money and make sure that he has XYZ, we need his chain. It's another thing if you say, listen, if you don't make sure that you guys are at Roscoe's at this time, make sure that you're there and I don't get that chain, your children are in danger. Mothers will do anything for their children. And maybe that's anything that a mother would do. So I don't know any of this, right? There's no allegedly here, anything like that. But I do know, I don't know that to me, it looks like his girlfriend would have had anything to do with it. Roscoe's is the kind of place that I don't go to that Roscoe's. You'll see me. I mean, I'm not there now, so I ain't got to worry about it. But you'll see me like at the Roscoe's on Gower. Yeah. I don't that's just the Roscoe's, you know, the one that's got the Nipsey airbrush on the side and everything. Like I'll go to that Roscoe's, but Roscoe's is consistently packed. So it's just a place where that getting shot in the Roscoe's, like with the amount of tourists that always want to go to Roscoe's, or just even the amount of general interest, even from locals, it is a wild thing to witness. So, but also because unfortunately she did drop her location, but because those people took the time to also take video of it, I'm sure that particular video is being analyzed. I'm sure Roscoe's has surveillance in there as well. There's all that, you know, all of this will come to light and you'll figure it out. I mean, of course, and like I said, you know, we all use these devices to such an extent that if she had anything to do with it, you'd be able to see if her her activity on her either her Instagram, if they decide to subpoena that, or you see her activity as far as her locations, things like that. If she's truly a good actor and then didn't have anything to do with this, if anything like that ever happened to any of my loved ones or something like that, I would have no problem surrendering over my phone or my information. I mean, I have nothing to hide, right? Nothing to hide. So if it comes down to something where she's like, oh no, get out of my phone, that would be strange because you just lost somebody. So I think we need to ask ourselves questions like that. DeAndre said, where was DeAndre, Roscoe's is it's Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles. It's a popular LA chain. And it's kind of like if you go to I would say if you go to Chicago and you go to Harold's Chicken, it's like the first stop you're supposed to make, right? Um, it's like one of those kinds of restaurants. If you go to if you go to let me think of it, like what's a good, because I'm trying to think about, like, yeah, if you go to New York, you might want to go to the Grill. You know, there's just certain restaurants that are really important to the culture. Or I'll say this: if you're in New York, you'll go to like you'll no, it's not. As I said, you'll probably I'm gonna shout out Footprints, or I'll even shout out you'll probably want to get Snyder Wings. Snyder Wings has probably the best wings that you'll have in your life. And I don't even eat chicken with the bone on it, but I can eat Snyder Wings. Um, but DeAndre, you said where's his security? He said he didn't roll with security. He didn't feel like he had to. Like, why do I need security? He kind of inferred that he doesn't need security because he always keeps something on him. So that may be something where he felt like he didn't need to roll with a bunch of dudes, you know, because of that. No, DeAndre, Roscoe's is not like Waffle House. Waffle House, which, as many people do know, I am a fast food connoisseur and junkie, you know, and so I have a Waffle House order. When I go to Waffle House, I got a chicken melt with a double hash, scattered, smothered, and covered. And then I do the most ignorant up north thing to that, right? My drink always got to be a Diet Coke. So Platon, you said, I'm not gonna read that question. No, DeAndre, no. Roscoe's is it's very regional. It's not gonna be in Virginia, but it's not like Waffle House. Roscoe's it's more like I guess the word is more like soulful, or maybe like more down home. Waffle House is like straight up like trucker chain. Like if you're making, like if I was driving down south and making like one of them 13, 14-hour trips, I'm going to bump into those Waffle Houses, right? Roscoe's is not designed like, it's not like that. Yeah, no. Yeah, it's not like that. But anyway, I just feel like, I understand that some people do feel also like very me against the world. Like, well, why do I have to have security? Yeah, A Black, I saw him taking his last breaths. I saw it. Yeah, Drew, I was saying the same thing too. Like, why are people posting this video? But that's what I was saying earlier, and I was going back to, is like, remember when that lady just plowed through all those people and they all died? And it wasn't just the blogs, because the blogs kind of try to pretend like, oh, here's the shocking video, but they kind of act like you kind of need to see it. But like true journalistic sources know that we shouldn't be seeing it, and know that it's in very poor taste to see that kind of footage. And so, but they were running it anyway. That, or did you see the footage of the one in Chicago where somebody just plows down these dudes, and we watched, like, I think it was like 3 people die in real time. And that was an area of Chicago where somebody just mowed them down. And it was where they even showed it with 2 different camera angles. And I'm talking about, again, it's not just the blogs, it's also the news outlets, people that are legitimately journalists were doing it. The blogs, I see, here's where I will defend blogs. Blogs don't have a responsibility, hate it or love it. They don't have a responsibility to deliver us true journalism, but you have to know what you're consuming. You have to know when you go to the blog, you may be getting skewed opinions. You may be getting something where you'll notice when you start frequenting certain blogs, you'll realize that a lot of the time you'll be like, well, why do they cover this person, but they never cover that person, or vice versa? But then I also really know that these 2 people aren't friends because they're paying them off. You can pay off a blog. The blog is not supposed to be, it's not presenting itself as a credible paper, Yeah, that's the case. Yeah. Social media got us sick, Drew said. Posting geotags in the death video on the same day. Yeah, it's just crazy. But people, where we're at now though, is people, the requirement of proof is like, I gotta see it. They don't want to be told it, they have to see it. And that's where we've all got to kind of ask ourselves, what are we taking in, and why are we taking it in, and are we really okay? Because I feel like we're not. It's definitely. But before, let me just say this. I did want to cover a couple things about the Emmys wins. And to tell you guys, as I was saying earlier, I was actually able to ask Cheryl Lee Ralph a question. Cheryl Lee Ralph won for Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Comedy Series for Abbott Elementary. It is her first Emmy, and I was in the press room for the Emmys. And I was called upon, and that's one of those chance things. You never really realize if it's going to happen to you, and it happened to me. And I'm very proud to have been part of that moment. I also want to say shout out to Janelle James, who does an amazing, amazing job as the principal. She's so, so freaking dope. I hated that the two of them had to get pit against each other, but I love and support them both. And if it was gonna be one or the other, I'd rather it be one or the other over another show winning at all. So that was just, it's unfortunate that you end up being in a situation like that. But certainly I'm happy for Abbott Elementary, and I'm certainly happy for Quinta as well. Quinta, I feel like, we feel like almost in a way like you grew up with her. She won outstanding writing for a comedy series. Here's what's interesting about that. Quinta Brunson won that for the pilot of Abbott Elementary. So this is a woman who, first of all, if you know Quinta, well, you know Quinta, we know her from, oh, he got money, and she's been so funny for so long on the internet, and she's been working, and she's created her own brand, and it's one of those people that you root for, just like how you root for Issa. You just like Issa said, she's rooting for everybody Black, but there's something so interesting and unique about these women, because not only are they rooting for everybody Black, look at how they employ people and either bring people back into the forefront, or incorporate people who may either have been on their first acting jobs, or it's just like amazing to see, or people that have been typecast, things like that. So I think that's just it was really dope. Deandra said, one more question: was it just him that got killed, or was there other people injured? From my understanding, Deandra, and I could be wrong, but just from my understanding, I believe it was just him that got killed, because the person I think they successfully did take the chain, and they ran off. And to be honest, I'm not even sure if the person intended to kill him. You got a lot of people out here that are real bad shots. You got people out here that the trigger fingers is crazy. It's all things like that. They're just bad shots. And I've been to the shooting range. Let's put it like that. I've been to the shooting range, and certain guns are heavy, and that blowback, it's a lot. So a lot of y'all really don't need to be carrying anything heavier than a 22. So, and a lot of y'all are very small people. I'm not a small person. I'm not saying I'm out here with the AK, nothing like that. But I'm just saying, there's a reason why, beyond what you're looking for in terms of power and even protection, there's a reason why certain guns just would not be for you. I mean, your hands could be small, in terms of you have to really practice, and y'all are not, some of y'all can't go to the gun range, get arrested. But yeah. Oh, no problem, DeAndre. No problem at all. So yeah, besides that, Gerard Carmichael won for outstanding writing for a variety special for Rothaniel, and he's having a really good moment right now too, because he came out, and has been really comfortable in his skin, and he's doing what he's he's just doing everything that he's supposed to do and wanting to do. So it's a feel good moment. Of course, Zendaya won for outstanding lead actress in a drama series. If you haven't watched Euphoria, I will say this. Euphoria is a show that I recommend to people, but I don't always recommend it in the same way that I would recommend shows that I truly love, because it is a show that shows addiction in such a way that if you've ever seen addiction, it can most certainly trigger you. And I don't want to contribute to the overuse of that word, but it can feel like something where if you've seen it close to you, if you've seen a family member, a friend, if you walk outside and there are addicts outside of your house, if you've ever been seen Skid Row, if you've ever been, near there's just certain places, I'll say Myrtle and Broadway. When you see these kinds of shows, it's hard to, let's say, use the word enjoy, but Zendaya's acting is just so phenomenal, and even how they add different layers to the script and as far as what's going on, she truly deserves it. I mean, there's nothing about that that's not deserved. And I said it earlier, but I want to say it before. Lizzo's Watch Out for the Big Girls won for outstanding competition program. And let me tell you something. This show, if you have not watched it before, is so good. What I would have asked Lizzo, she didn't do the presser, so I didn't get a chance to talk to her. But I have talked to her choreographer. Her choreographer is super, super dope, super dope. What I would love to celebrate her for is, first of all, this show is so positive. She's very body positive, And the main thing about Lizzo is that she wants people to feel very comfortable in their own skin, and she actually listens to people, and she's really, really, um, she's really concerned about your welfare, like from a really genuine place, and that's dope. And her show is about that. Her show does not focus on drama. It's not the show where everybody's like getting into fist fights. You know, that's not it's not that kind of show. Now there's a time and a place for that, and I'm not saying that I don't necessarily consume that material. I'm kind of better now in that it's not like the bulk of what I watch. You know, I've been getting into a lot of like sci-fi and stuff, which I didn't know I was that kind of person. But anyway, this show is a very feel good. It's a very feel good reality show. And if you've ever if you've ever criticized Lizzo, which I have not, I find myself really standing up for a lot of the time because I feel like Lizzo hate comes out of nowhere. And I specifically point to Lizzo and Coi Leray, two people who seem comfortable in their skin. They're doing their thing. They're happy with their lives, but somebody always has something to say about their health. You don't know anything about their health. You don't know what their blood pressure is. You don't know what they ate last night. You don't know what they ate for breakfast. You don't know anything. You cannot judge somebody's health simply by looking at them. And I mean, I have to use this example, but it's like, look at what COVID did. A lot of people who were seemingly healthy, you know, we lost like athletes to COVID. We lost like bodybuilders to COVID. So you can't look at somebody and assume that they're healthy. You don't know anything about that person. So that is always a bad take to me. So I'll never support that. And let's see what we got here. Oh, I'm not gonna lie. When Succession won for Outstanding Drama Series, I was like, yeah, that's my show. That's definitely my show. But you know, guys, going back to this cycle of social media and the usage of it and what we want to contribute to it, you know, there's times where anybody could go viral for a take, right? Like whether it's a good one or a bad one. But this social media, this insatiable need to use the people that are in your circle or corner or fans to weaponize them to do things that could really cause harm to somebody. Because I mean, celebrities themselves, they get stalked. So what says that somebody wouldn't stalk someone that said something to that celebrity that they are so obsessed with? We see plenty of things in the news cycle of celebrities being attacked or somebody's climbing over their gates, things like that. So why would you have that and that kind of power and encourage your fans to find out the intel, find out what's going on, find out so you can get to them? Because the fan is not going to necessarily simply interpret that as, let me go find out that, you know, Jane Doe is talking about me. That fan is going to try to level up and do their best to do the most to impress. And that's when you get into the doxing and that person works here. And, you know, then again, with that level of celebrity, people have gotten fired behind things like this. Because the person will say, oh, so you work for that outlet, huh? And it's not a conversation that happens, you know, out, you know, in public, but it's a conversation that happens where now people are going to lose their jobs or get blacklisted because of things like this. I want all the girls, I want everybody to win. You know, ultimately, I think that everybody deserves, you know, a place in this world. And I feel like we should all be able to do what we want to do. So I find it very, very interesting when people have the type of personality type where it's like, well, if you're a friend of Meg, let's just say, this is not a, you know, to attack anybody, but like if you're a friend of Meg, then you can't be a friend of mine. Or if you're a friend of Cardi's, you can't be a friend of mine. If you're a friend of Nicki's, you can't be a friend of mine. Like I just think that's just it's so unusual to hear adults speak like that. You know, I'm almost fascinated by those terms. Like, do you realize that you are being a minion? That you are being controlled when that person did nothing to you? Now you're not going to listen to any of their music, even if you like it, out of loyalty to whomever's fan base. I mean, that's very dysfunctional. And it's also just not standing in your own, like it's not standing on your own. But I suppose in life, you know, some people want to follow. They want to be led. We have to remember that. Everybody's not a boss. And that's not a bad thing. Everybody's not a boss. Everybody's not a leader. You know, some people they need direction. That's why we end up with things where we have the cult church of he who shall not be named that I have muted on Twitter. You have the cult following, people actually taking in. Listen, like I always say, I am really big on information, like how I receive information. There's no way that who shall not be named that I have muted on Twitter would ever be able to sing a gospel song, or I would sit down and listen to their service while they're letting off proverbs and Bible quotes. That is not coming from the right vessel, from the right messenger. So I would not partake in that. What responsibility do these platforms have to protect against certain speeches or speech or doxing? What's the limit? Revenge tapes? That's a good question. Yeah, that's a good question. I think that the platforms have to realize that that's the thing. Everybody's in bed with everybody. What are you gonna do? Now you're going to suspend this person from Twitter and then lose their support, and then that weaponized fan base also leaves, and there could be something in terms of revenue these platforms aren't ethical. We're asking these questions as if the platforms want to be ethical. They don't care to be ethical. Yeah, he who shall not be named that I have muted on Twitter's cult is top 5 for certain. I mean, that man has said some crazy, crazy things to people, and just because he says it, people just like, okay, And I always wonder too, like, everybody has like, anyone can have like moments of lucidity, but some of this stuff just doesn't make sense, and y'all still champion it. When that man sat there in Trump's office and told y'all, and he was all excited, he was gonna make an Apple plane. Apple didn't tell you that they needed a plane form factor, or you could just, why don't you just put an Apple sticker on a plane and get your Apple plane? Some Apple planes. What the hell are you talking about? It's bad when I can say Trump, but I can't say he who shall not be named that I have muted on Twitter. That's real bad. Anyways, yeah, I mean, if it were me, I think that maybe immediate suspension in a situation like this, because we're talking about celebrities, would not be the case. There has to be some layer to it where, like, when accounts have a certain amount of followers, maybe when accounts have a certain amount of followers, their tweets need to be delayed and approved. Like, if this person just, and matter of fact, that's kind of how it works on Facebook. Like, if you're a member of a group and you've posted poorly in the group, or maybe you did something like news or something like that, Facebook, if they don't suspend you for a time, what they'll do is they'll put you on like an auto approval, and that's not up to the group necessarily, unless the group is just set up that way. If they have like, because I've been in groups that have like 200,000 followers in the group, or members rather. So then you can't just post, "Hey guys, how y'all doing?" You have to get the post that has to be admin approved or moderator approved. And I feel like that would be a great strategy with these accounts, which they need to sort of figure out who is doing this. And maybe instead of just saying it like celebrity, once a person has a certain amount of followers, then that person may need approval to tweet right away. Twitter Blue lets you, and this is the thing, which I'm sure all the celebrities probably have Twitter Blue. Twitter Blue actually lets you delay your tweets anyway. So you have time to say like, yo, I was wilding, and you could undo the tweet. And that's not what's happening here at all. Anyway, I just want to go ahead just really quick before I wrap it up, is I want to restate the Cardi B tweet that was sending condolences to PnB. And I want to restate the Nicki Minaj tweet sending condolences to PnB. And I wonder what everybody thinks about how this was said. So again, Cardi B said, "I highly doubt Nicki was looking at PnB's baby mom's IG. He was in a bad location and people stay outside plotting. It's very irresponsible and inconsiderate to blame her for something so tragic. We should be sending nothing but love to her and his family at this time." Nicki Minaj, about 45 minutes later, says, "After Pop Smoke, there's no way we as rappers or our loved ones are still posting locations to our whereabouts. To show waffles and some fried chicken? He was such a pleasure to work with. Condolences to his mom and family. This makes me feel so sick. Jesus. Hashtag sip, hashtag PnB Rock," and she puts the dove. So those are very, very different approaches to the matter. Cardi is saying, listen, you can't blame the girl. You don't know, and again, social media is as such now that everybody drops their location. People do it all the time. And while we're even blaming her for that, when you go to, let's just say a lot of y'all like hookah gang. A lot of y'all hookah gang and y'all outside and y'all, y'all in the mix and things like that. But why do you go to those places? Because your favorite celebrity is doing a walkthrough. So now we're gonna be mad at people, everybody that does walkthroughs and that does appearances, when your favorite rapper may not necessarily be making performing, but your favorite rapper might be making an appearance in a club. That's not necessarily dropping a location, but you know where they're going to be at. You can't reach out and touch them, but you know where they're going to be at, right? So that's not always the same thing, guys. There's a bunch of people outside right now for Fashion Week. We see tons of celebrities, tons of A-list celebrities that have been outside. So it's in a way, I actually can understand what PnB was trying to convey, in the sense that, like, listen, I mean, I'm here, I'm outside. Like, what am I supposed to do? There's a level of wanting to live your life, but at the same time, I can actually understand what Nicki's trying to say. Like, where it's like, you got to make sure that you are protected, and that you're not the kind of celebrity that thinks that you can just go to Ralph's and pick up some groceries if that's not how your fan base perceives you. And I completely understand where Cardi's coming from, because Cardi's just saying, like, listen, like, this woman is mourning, not only her man, but the father of her child. Like, y'all are bugging. Who has time? Like, who wants to deal with all of that? And if you don't know the circumstances, it's not really on you to just say that. I think that a lot of times, if you don't have, and this sounds so elementary too, because, well, a lot of these tweets are elementary for sure, because they're very attacking. But it really does boil down to, like, if you don't have anything to say, you really should not be saying anything, or at least try to gather some kind of information where you can make an informed take about things. Drew said, does Nicki catch a bad rep for being a diva as opposed to like J-Lo or Mariah? I just watched something recently, and I was looking. Yeah, I think I watched something, and someone said that J-Lo, they were at a dance audition. I do not remember the particulars of who the lady was, who said it, whatever. I can't dance, but she was like, J-Lo asked if there were a particular sign in the room. Let's just say like Geminis, and like all the Geminis that were auditioning like raised their hand, like, yeah, we Geminis, J-Lo, that's good. And then J-Lo was like, okay, thank you for coming. I cannot work with Geminis. Everybody's like, damn, like, I like, just that's the reason. So they were kind of claiming that J-Lo's obnoxious like that. And in regards to Mariah Carey, I guess it depends on what we're like. Mariah Carey, it's different, I think, in a sense. Like, Mariah Carey does diva things, like she'll get on a treadmill with like stilettos on. It's like quirky things that just Mariah does. She was just at like Disney World or something like that with her kids in heels. But like, that seems harmless. I can't think of a time when Mariah Carey just seemed like she was like doing something that, the lambs were being activated to go ahead and harm people or anything like that. Yeah, I don't think. Hi, I am whole E peace. I don't believe that the lambs have ever been that kind of a group. Also, you have to consider that Mariah Carey's fan base, the bulk of it probably comes from before social media. So because she's such a legacy act, I doubt that you've got these like 30, 40, and even 50-year-olds that are out here ready to like, fight when they got like, I don't know, to go to like their kids' graduation or, things like that, or PTA meetings. So I don't think you're going to get that. I think Nicki's fan base skews a lot younger. I think they probably even skew a lot younger than her. And in the sense that they're probably a lot of like, maybe also by virtue of being called Barbs, it just feels like the demographic is like kids who again may seem harmless, but kids are also very like malleable, and they'll do things, and they'll misinterpret what the right thing to do is. So they might think like, let me go and like choke this person out. Like, a kid will think that's the right thing to do because they're eager to seek direction. And adults who are immature adults will probably do the same thing. Or again, like I said, a lot of people just like to be led. They don't know how to think on their own. So you get a lot of that too. So, and also it's like, some of these people, like when you're a super fan of somebody, it's like, oh my gosh, I'll drop everything. Oh my gosh, that's Nicki. Oh my gosh, that's Cardi. Oh my gosh, it's Lotto, So, think about what it was when you were like 13 years old and you saw your favorite artist, you'd be, you wouldn't be ready to like, do something to the person, to whoever's, I guess, have beef, whatever. But you know what, guys, though? And we're saying, Well, I guess you guys are saying it, but I want to relate this to something, and I think it's like when you look back at it, from things that were happening when I was a kid, like the East Coast West Coast beef. We were so invested in that and like really thought it was a beef, and we're just like, oh my god, the East Coast, the West Coast, what are we gonna do? And people were really picking sides and like, oh my god, I'm Tupac or I'm Biggie. I can't stand this. You look at that footage from the Source Awards, and Snoop is over there talking about the West Coast. Then Andre 3000 of all people, who's out now, like with no shoes on, playing flutes outside, happy as can be, just in some sort of a Zen mode that's beyond anything any of us are doing. And he's like, the South got something to say. It's just was pure chaos, and people died behind that. And certainly, if either of them had gotten to live as long to have become whole, full, middle-aged men at this particular point, there's no way they would have condoned this. Look how sad all of this is, So just think about the consequences of this, because really we have situations right now where there's at least probably maybe like 10, 15 active female rappers right now. Active. Some of these girls are not from the suburbs, or they're not from like environments that are necessarily safe. So, and some of these people, again, let me tell you guys something. Let me put my Vaseline on. Some of these people, and this is what happens too, and this is why so many people get extorted. Some of these people are the bag. You can have, and that's what happened to Tekashi. When you're the bag, people gonna protect you at all costs because they need their rent paid, they want the car, they want to come to the party, they want to be outside, they want to be in the mix. So before you come in here talking your shit and trying to make sure that this person doesn't sell records, I'm gonna make sure that you will never get to sell another record again. So you got to think about how people in desperation will act. People are not always reasonable. A Black, I listened to PnB Rock properly just recently, and how ironic. Can't let them catch me. I got my Draco. They said they're going to rob me. Who? I don't think so. Last person who tried, he in the sky, he an angel. PnB Rock is from he's from Philly. And he's from his father got killed. I read up today. His father got killed when he was a kid, when he was like 3. So he didn't grow up knowing his father. So he's from an environment where to have made it, this is what you have to kind of understand too. Like, as I said, like when you understand how people like this think, then you know that if it's not a life that you have to lead, you are crazy for allowing yourself to do it. But PnB made it to 30. So for somebody like that to make it to 30, when I'm sure he's seen so much death in his life, he's seen, of course, he saw that his father got killed. He is somebody that kept the pistol on him. He mentioned it, and in interviews he said it, and he just knew, he's from an environment where these things happen. He's from Northeast Philly, so he's not from some palace in the suburbs. So he has more, maybe more street. He had more street arrogance. I don't necessarily believe he didn't have situational awareness. I just believe he was arrogant. And sometimes you feel like, sometimes people think like, oh, I want to be like, I walk amongst the people like you. People feel like they can walk amongst the people like, what do I have to be afraid of? But I look at that as arrogance. I have nothing to prove. You're not going to see me outside hanging out. Nobody's projects. You're not going to see me in the hood. Certain hoods I'll go to. Certain hoods I go to because I got family there. And it's different. Like, it's certain buildings I can go to. I wouldn't go. I can't go to every NYCHA building. I don't go to the pink houses. I definitely do not go to the pink houses. That's where I draw the line. I'm not even going to meet you outside. Just meet me by the subway. On my side. Yeah, or meet me where we going. But yeah, there's just I don't have any. There's a curiosity about me, like, because I'm about the environment. Like my interests are like in architecture, like transportation, planning, environment, community development, things of that nature. So I do look at things like that, and I look at them from a statistical standpoint as well, economics, socioeconomics. So I can have that conversation, and I can have it in a way where I do research in communities and things like that. I've been to community board meetings. I've actually led community meetings. I've done surveys and studies where I've like overlaid like a before and afters with a plan to like not have gentrification. Guys, I'm a lot of things. Okay, I've done a lot of things. I have a lot of interests. So when I say that, I'm just saying like I'm just not gonna walk into your neighborhood and like be skipping down Pickin Avenue like hey guys, what's up? You know, that's not for me to do. That's for Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons. You know, I don't need to be out here just talking to strangers unless I'm a happy hour or something like that. Shout out to Chili's because Chili's caught a bad one today. Chili's, Red Lobster, Applebee's, and Olive Garden today caught a bad one for being bad chain restaurants. I will say shout out to Chili's because they had the best menu. Applebee's has the best happy hour, and I would say Red Lobster has that Wagyu burger. I like that, and I don't like nothing at Olive Garden at all. I do not like nothing on their menu. Like it's like microwave pasta. If I want to eat microwave pasta, I said this on Twitter, I would just go get like a frozen dinner. Wow, I mean that's just literally all I'd have to do. What There's nothing. And then Olive Garden has this thing where they take look at the menu. They put steak and fettuccine on the same plate, but they put it side by side. It's just plated in the strangest way where you have like steak and pasta on the side. And I hate fettuccine Alfredo, by the way. I am Whole E said, with the economy tanking, these situations are going to become more prevalent. Folks got to keep that in mind. Desperation causes irrational behavior. Yeah, it really does, you know. And I don't even know, like a lot of times too, like if you're walking around my neighborhood and we have nothing, like our stomachs are touching our backs, and you got the nerve to walk into this neighborhood and you got this chain that, which is probably fake too. That's what's really sad about it. But that people think is worth a certain amount of money, or you got this Rolex that people, you know, that might be a really a Rolex. People are gonna be like, yo, get out of here. Like now you disrespecting me. You know, what are you doing for the neighborhood? The same questions I would ask on the ground, like in terms of like what does this neighborhood need in terms of resources, or you know, is it a food desert? You know, what do we have here besides Popeyes and KFC across the street from each other? Like I would kind of more ask questions like that. Is there a community garden of interest? I'm not gonna lie, like I'm a gardener, but there are people that do know how to cultivate the land and do things like that. So like, do we need to bring that resource in here? Do we need to grow something here? What can this soil actually, like what can be cultivated in the soil? Like I ask questions like that. um I am Whole E said that Olive Garden's breadsticks are trash. Yeah, I mean, I just don't like nothing in there. You know what? I guess I could eat the salad. I wouldn't eat breadsticks really because I try to like just naturally. I just sort of stick with a lower carb diet. So the chance of me just treating the breadsticks like a glizzy, not gonna happen. I don't like glizzies either. I don't like hot dogs, and I don't eat pork. I wasn't raised eating pork, so a beef hot dog's not gonna do it for me either. Facts. Folks have never had those hunger pangs. I have. You go from thinking like a human to an animal, unfortunately. Yeah, and I mean, again, there's a lot going on here too, especially with the pandemic. I feel like all of us were, we were dealing with a lot of things. Like we were dealing with loss. Like, I mean, I lost people to COVID, I lost people during COVID if it wasn't COVID. But and then there's also the whole thing being cooped up and not being able to go places and not being able to travel or see things in the same way that you would have had outside not been locked down in the same way. A lot of people lost their jobs. So that also goes into like mental health and how you cope with those kinds of circumstances. And this is why you see people that like have had jobs that they had for, let's say, like 20, 25, 30 years, and those jobs end up shutting down and they don't know what to do. They can't feed their family. And maybe that's the father. He's the man of the house and he's got 5 kids. And he might, in that case, that could drive somebody to be suicidal. Oh, hey, Kinks Galore, that's my homegirl. Cheesecake Factory. You know what? I do like Cheesecake Factory. My problem with Cheesecake Factory, though, is that the menu is like the Bible. Like, why do I have to pick like on page 98? I like this thing, you know. But Cheesecake Factory, they have a great happy hour, by the way. If you go to Cheesecake Factory, you go to their happy hour. They've got like half price drinks. It's like they have the wines. They also do like a Cosmo special. I'll drink a Cosmo every once in a while, but I don't like drinking those I don't like drinking hard spirits outside. Like I might drink like some Tito's at the crib. I met a couple of friends that I might be okay with like chilling with, stuff like that. Like I might drink like spirits around those friends. But for me to be outside, especially in the here and now, and drinking anything besides like red wine, which I like to drink Pinot Noir, because Pinot Noir, whatever the elements that are in it, I forget the name of I forget the word right now. Because really, it's not me just forgetting the word. It's it's just me knowing that I'm going to pronounce it wrong. So, because I read so much, I don't always talk unless I'm doing like interviews or YouTube, things like that. But I'm reading all the time. I'm always just taking things in. So I may know a lot of things, but then I might say it or pronounce it. You'd be like, what the hell is she trying to say? So I try not to do that with names though. So I always ask people how to say their name beforehand, like if I have to interview them. But your dog, what rapper do you think will be next? What kind of question is that? What kind of question is that? What rapper do you think will be next? I don't know what rapper is going to be next. Do you rap, your dog? Right. No, we're not doing Death Pool. The only person that I said was dead, I said that Joe Biden is dead. And they're doing Weekend at Bernie's. And all of the Joe Biden footage that you see right now is all deep fakes. That is that I am a Joe Biden is dead truther. That's my conspiracy theory. I do not believe that man is alive. I don't know who y'all seeing, who's got on that bank robber mask, but that is not that man. He's not with us. And I seriously feel like that. Like I could pass a lie detector test. That is my truth. I'm speaking it. I'm serious. And you may say I should know better, but that's what Plato said they're gonna shut this down. Nah, that's the truth. Your dog said no, but it's crazy. All these rappers are beef and they killing each other. It's crazy. You know what it is to your dog, if I really can frame it in a different way, especially with a lot of these Chicago rappers that were coming up, that have become really big through drill music. A lot of those rappers really do come from those environments. So when they start talking about the stuff, and they're even, they're using their lyrics in court, and that's the era that we're in. I think what we're used to is we're more so like used to rappers being illustrative and like telling us a story and painting a picture where they're, even if they're saying like, oh, I killed 800 people yesterday type of thing. You realize that it's not real. It's all kind of just, it's fiction, and maybe that person is kind of taking bits and pieces from, because everybody got, even if you're hood adjacent or you're from the hood, you might not be really, of the hood kind of, so to speak, but you got that friend that might be doing certain kind of things. So if you're somebody that can express yourself creatively, you might tell those stories and kind of embody them and say them through the perspective of the person. So a lot of times rap is that. A lot of these rappers are not from the hood. Most of them are not. I know some of these people, they're not from the hood. But for the ones that are, that do kill, that got bodies on them, things like that, and they listen, there's rappers that have dropped their location in the past. I don't even want to get into that kind of beef because that's a whole other thing besides this one, which seems far more random and tragic. But rappers have done it in their own neighborhoods and gotten killed. If you know who I'm talking about, you know who I'm talking about for sure. But even rappers that like I believe FBG Duck got killed like in the Gold Coast of Chicago. Do you know what that's like? It's like getting killed on Rodeo Drive, or that's like getting killed on Fifth Avenue, like in front of the Chanel store or something. That's just so strange. It just doesn't happen. Platon said, dumb, terrible people are going to do dumb, terrible things always and forever. You know something? Okay, so it depends on what you view. Okay, let me put it like this. This goes back to personalities and things like that. You could be dumb and terrible. And I usually associate that with youth. It's what you do in your formative years and what you can do at that time and who you can become. Because I do not believe that everyone is beyond being reformed, or that that no one can change. I do not believe that. So I always find that unusual, especially like when we were talking about he whose name I will not say that I have muted on Twitter, and Kim, and Kim and Ray J rather. Ray J is at a point in his life where he doesn't want to keep talking about the sex tape, but his motivation does seem like more so in terms of like financial investors and what the implications are as far as like what his piece of this puzzle is in terms of like what he was doing. Like there's the Kardashian seems to be suggesting that he sexually assaulted her and that he was the main source of the sex tape, but Ray J put out his receipts and is saying otherwise. Some people don't believe him, but that's what he said. Anyways, I don't think that it's so outside the realms of possibility that a person can say like, dude, we had a sex tape 20 years ago, and right now in 2022, I don't want to be associated with this. I have children, I've matured, I've grown. I think a lot of the times what people have a problem with is that they don't realize that people can grow. And when you have people that kind of always remind somebody like, oh, I used to know you when, or somebody that look at somebody like, oh, that person was a crackhead, things like that. And now that, they're now, doing charity work and they're sober for 50 years, oh, he's still always going to be a crackhead. Do you realize what that says about you? So I never, judge people. And actually, I'll even just say this tidbit too. Like with me, I love being around children and older people, right? The reason why I like being around children is they're so direct, they're so honest, they tell you whatever they're feeling in the moment, and there's nothing behind it, Now there are some people out there, some of y'all children is demon seeds, and you could just tell that person, those ones that are like, drowning kittens and like, laughing when they see something get a dog or a rabbit get run over. There's some of these kids ain't gonna make it. But we're talking about just the genuine innocence of a child. I love being around them because you can learn from them. And I'm also not the kind of person that talks down to children. I'm not like, oh, hey, little buddy, how are you? Are you hungry? Would you like some Lunchables? Like, I'm not talking to a kid like that. Like, are you hungry? Okay, what would you like to eat? And I ask kids questions. I can make decisions for children as an adult, but there are questions that are healthy questions that you ask children so that you can see what they're about and just understand and help them to form their personalities or help them to be able to speak up for themselves, and again, in a healthy way. And I like being around elderly people because they lack that filter as well. They've been around so long, they ain't got time. They ain't got time for all this nonsense and maybe in some cases etiquette, but it doesn't have to be rude, but they just don't have time to play the game. When you've been on this earth 70, 80, 90 years, what is old, right? In some cases, I get how those people feel like the world is old. So anyway, I love being around them because they're honest. And but using that example, kind of going back to what I was just saying, like when somebody's 70, 80, or 90 years old, sometimes you get around people that are older like that, and they may not have people around them. And that might be informed by what they were doing when they were 25, 30, or 40, right? And it's not for me to judge you on who you were. It's for me to speak to you in where you're at. Like if you're 70 years old today and like you're somebody that I hang out with because we both go to the gym or something like that, you're just the homie. That's all it has to be. Like I don't gotta get into like just really, really certain parts of your life that made you ostracized in certain kind of ways, because that's never gonna be a conversation I'm gonna have with somebody. So your dog said, world peace ain't ever gonna happen until someone makes a change. We really do need a good president and something just like somebody like MLK, you're saying. Could do like, okay, now I understand what you're saying. I think that first of all, your dog, you need to understand, like, remember what I said earlier. You need to attend your local community board meetings, understand who your local elected officials are. So depending on where you live, that could look different, right? So that could even be, I'm talking about people that are like holding, like, if you live in a small town, that could be the mayor. That might even be the police chief. I just, you need to know who is making the decisions in your town and in your life. Because when you're looking at the president, that's not an immediate change that you're gonna see on level where when you're on the ground in your town, you're seeing that things are being neglected or that things aren't being done or the schools aren't receiving supplies. There are certain things that you can immediately be involved with in terms of volunteer work or in terms of making sure that they allocate certain things in budget to those particular resources or those lacking resources that can help your community. Now that's obviously that's a very best case scenario where it's always going to happen, but at least make sure that your elected officials know exactly what you want. Be that leader in your community. Know what's going on. But the president isn't, essentially he's almost like a figurehead. What happens like on a day-to-day in terms of the president, it's not going to affect you as far as what happens on a day-to-day with your local elected official. So you really like understand the government structure, obviously from the top down, but be intimately familiar and very engaged and involved with anything civic that has to do with your community. That is the one takeaway I want you all to have today, if that's not something that you're doing already. And I think everybody should volunteer. And when I say volunteer, I'm not saying tweet about it. You ain't got to tell me that you gave out food at the soup kitchen today. You ain't got to tweet about it. What you should do is do it for yourself. Go out there, go clean your community streets, sweep quietly, do something good, and do it for yourself. Don't do it for nobody else. That's my best advice. The more you do for you without having to prove it to anybody else, the more you'll be fulfilled in your purpose, because you're living for you. You're not living for anybody else. So, guys, I guess I'll just wrap it up now. I went and did all that stuff with the Emmys, and then I'm sitting here hanging out with you guys. And I was there. The press had to be there 2 hours early. I am Holly. You're an amazing communicator, and you have a captivating voice. Looking forward to seeing your growth. You got it. Oh, thank you so much. You know, I'm gonna say again, when I went to the Emmys today, I've asked questions in different Platon, shut up. He said we need Jesus, guys. Platon, why don't you go ahead and lead the group prayer then? You lead the prayer. Do y'all want Platon praying for you? Because I don't. I want him praying for me. So you pray for everybody in this chat and leave me out of it. But I was just gonna say real quick, I have spoken at different award shows and been to different award shows. I was able to ask questions at the Oscars. I, of course, now the Emmys is on my list. Some of you might recognize me from TMZ. And Fox 5. I've done a lot of things on a kind of a local level or on a smaller scale. Ultimately, guys, the goal is to grow the channel, and it is to be seen, of course, but not to be seen where I'm centering myself per se. I want to communicate in a way that is valuable to people. So I would like to give you guys pure and true journalism. I'm not a person that wants to take sides. I want to give you something that gives you a non-biased and a truly impartial way of looking at things, where it's not you taking on what I think, but it's you looking at all the facts and informing yourself. And then we could talk about that too all the time. And by the way, if you go on my Twitter, which is at Koku Puff, I'm not even saying you have to follow me, but I'm just saying if you go on my Twitter, I will talk to anybody that asks me. So you guys should definitely, if you want to engage any topic that I'm talking about, if you just want to ask me something on Twitter, 1,000%. I will never not respond to you, but you got to have your account open, because if it's private, I won't be able to see it. And I specifically don't follow private accounts because, you know, I believe if you need your privacy, that's for a good reason. So I would not even follow a private account. So that's your business. And I use the same thought process as far as Instagram. Now, Instagram, what I'll do, it's like I got to keep my feed from being noisy. A lot of times y'all be liking, like with Twitter. The reason why I don't follow a lot of people on Twitter, y'all be liking porn. Now I got porn scrolling up on my feed and stuff like that. Y'all be arguing with your baby mamas and all public and loud about it. I just, what I do is I go to the tab where there's that tab where it tells you like viral tweets or like fitness or funny tweets, things like that. I don't have a problem responding to anybody. And if you look at my Twitter style, it's just me responding to tweets. So it's not me being discriminatory. I'm not part of some cool kids club. I'm just engaging, and I love talking to people. And I just love really just talking to strangers. You don't see me on Twitter arguing with anybody. I like to have really good discourse. And I don't even mind disagreeing with people. But it has to be healthy. So if we're disagreeing and then, you say that you want to harm me or you threaten me, and it's not that I'm scared, because I have no reason to be scared, but it's like, that's not really healthy discourse. You're just talking because you're on the internet. You don't know my life. You don't know me. So it's just, I can't even take that seriously. Like, it's just hilarious to me, because I just, no. Now, I'm not saying that I would go outside and do some reckless stuff. As I told you, I definitely have great situational awareness, and I don't put myself in bad situations, but I also don't talk to people crazy online. And I view the internet as a place that it's a world that we can all just speak to each other. There's no, the dynamic on the internet for me is that, everybody kind of like, I remember hearing this one from a teacher once, and my teacher said, and it made me feel so good. Like, I like to repeat it. On the first day of class, everybody has an A+. It's up to you to make sure at the end of the semester that your grade does not fail. I know that sounds so cheesy, but that makes me happy. That makes me smile. I am Holly. Yeah, I've seen it. You're definitely going to get where you want to be. I'd put money on it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I just, a lot of the interviews that I've had, and this speaks to, a I guess just again wrapping it up. A lot of the interviews that I've had, sometimes I'll interview people and they'll be, I can tell that they're first defensive. Sometimes the way these interviews work is you might only be allotted like 5 minutes. You got to get that 5 minutes off and ask those really interesting questions really quick, or that's just it. Or sometimes those outlets don't necessarily ask interesting questions. They might ask generic questions. But if I interview somebody, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to watch the movie or the TV series. I'll binge it. Like, I do my research. I make sure that I ask questions that speak to, like the show itself, the character development, the plot. I don't like to just hit nobody with nothing. I have to respect your time, And also, like, a lot of people are defensive because it's like you got people out here asking the craziest questions to try to get a rise out of you. And that kind of comes out of that shock media or the shock jock era. People are tired. Sometimes press is not fun for them to do because you're not the only outlet that they're talking to. So I could interview you today, but it's part of a press run. So it's like you talk to 50 different outlets. So by the time I get to you, I might be outlet number 47. That interview better be interesting. It better be lively. It better make you laugh, And I'll say another thing too that I pride myself on is that, when you have a bad reputation in terms of interviewing, what I've noticed too, or especially people that are kind of have a lot of anxiety when they get interviewed, people will ask you to give them interview questions beforehand. I don't get asked that. Very rarely it'll happen sometimes, but I can tell where it's coming from and it's not anything personal. But no one asked me to, like, I need you to send the 10 questions you're going to ask today. And the other thing is that a lot of times interviews will, like I said, they'll be very short, but I've had interviews that have lasted like 30 to 45 minutes that were intended to be 10 minutes, but their PR will be like, nah, just keep it going. Let's go with it. Because I'm not here to antagonize anybody. I want to know what, and without being intrusive, because I also don't ask people like, oh, so who you dating this time? You dating so and so? I heard. Like, I'm not doing all of that. So, but I want to know what makes you tick in terms of, like, I know you're an actor. I know that you might have won certain awards, but do you like baked mac and cheese or stovetop mac and cheese? I can ask a question like that, and like, it's just talk to a person about things that they would talk to their friends about, So that's important to me, but to do that too. But I thank you guys so much for spending time with me today. I'm glad that I got to get this many thoughts off. And I want to say congratulations to everybody that was at the Emmys today as well. It was nice that I could do it in the virtual space. Some of these things you can't do, well, you can. I do have I'm not going to announce it now, but there's going to be some cool stuff. I will announce it. But yeah, so thank you for, Platon, you're not praying for these people? Platon's scared, y'all. He don't think it's going to end. Oh, okay, wait a minute. He might not even be there anymore. Prayer might not be possible. Thank you. Y'all. Platon said it all the time. God is good. Yeah, I know. Drew said, Koku, you're a seasoned professional and a star for the people and beyond. Thank you so much. I really, really, really appreciate that. And I hope that one day I am on your television on a round table, not arguing with anybody. And if I am on a panel where it's a reunion or something of that sort, I promise you guys, I'm going to stop them from throwing the drinks because that's just not the energy that we need to have out there right now. So security, I'm going to help out. Oh, Platon said he was lighting incense and candles for the gang. Oh man, no, y'all don't want me to pray either, because I don't know what's going on. Congrats on whatever happened today. Platon, get out of what are you doing? All right, guys, take care. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Koku, aka Koku Puff. If you follow me on Instagram at Koku Puff, KOKUPUFF, I will follow you back 1,000%. But will not follow you back if it's a private account, because people have their families to protect. You just never really know. So I don't want to be, I don't want to be intrusive. But if you follow me on Twitter, it's very unlikely I'll follow you back. It is nothing personal. I just don't like Twitter noise, because you start to see things and it's like the algorithm, the algo be just so like, it be mixy. I just want to just, let random tweets off. I don't want to be involved in, because some of y'all get into some of y'all do the black Twitter where y'all start arguing with people and acting like you're victims. But then, like, for instance, this Nicki Minaj thing. Any tweet you make about Nicki Minaj is always going to get the barbs started. So I think that people that tweet about Nicki Minaj and have these hot takes and like these like salacious, wild, viral takes. When they say that, oh my God, the bars are against me, I can't believe this is happening. This is not counting celebrities. This is not counting celebrities. But when people do that, they just wanted to be doing something. That I don't believe in that. You know, you'll see I don't engage stuff, or maybe I'll use initials in certain cases if I want to say things, but don't believe the hype. Those people are out there. They want to be victims. You know, there's a lot, guys. A lot of people need attention in different ways. I just like to have, you know, intelligent discourse. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me. Thanks, Kinks Galore. I'll talk to you on Twitter. You know, we have our conversations. I always enjoy your input as well. So I'll see you around, guys. Later.